Imagine a night so terrifying that an entire continent couldn't sleep. June 23, 1783. The sky turned blood red across Europe, and what happened next changed history forever. But the truth behind this sleepless night is more shocking than anyone imagined. This is that truth. It all began 1,200 miles away in Iceland. The Loki volcanic system had awakened, but this wasn't just any eruption. This was one of the most catastrophic volcanic events in recorded history. For 8 months, Loki spewed 15 cubic kilometers of lava, but the lava wasn't the real killer. It was the invisible poison floating through the air. Sulfur dioxide, fluorine, and other deadly gases created a toxic fog that spread across the entire northern hemisphere. When this poisonous cloud reached Europe, it created the most terrifying sight anyone had ever witnessed. The sky turned blood red, and nobody knew why. Eyewitness accounts from that night paint a picture of absolute terror. One diary entry reads, "The very heavens appear to bleed, as if the world itself is dying." In London, thousands of people flooded the streets, convinced the apocalypse had arrived. Churches overflowed with terrified citizens seeking salvation from what they believed was divine judgment. Even religious leaders had no explanation for the crimson sky that refused to fade. When dawn came, the sky remained red. Day after day, week after week, from France to Germany, from Italy to Scandinavia, the entire continent lived under this blood-red dome. Scientists of the time had no instruments capable of detecting the true cause. What they didn't know was that they were breathing poison with every breath. The truth was invisible, but deadly. Sulfur dioxide was creating a massive atmospheric lens. This toxic gas scattered blue light while allowing red wavelengths to dominate the sky. But the visual spectacle was masking a silent killer. People were slowly suffocating. Crops began dying across Europe. The toxic fog was poisoning everything it touched. Livestock collapsed in fields. The death toll was mounting, but nobody connected it to the red sky. Hospitals filled with patients suffering mysterious breathing problems and skin irritations. Death rates spiked by 25% across Europe, but the cause remained a mystery for centuries. It wasn't until modern science that we finally understood what really happened that night. Ice core samples revealed the shocking truth. The Laki eruption had created a global climate disaster. But this is just the beginning of the story. History is full of hidden truths that powerful forces don't want you to discover. Subscribe for more hidden truths the world doesn't want you to know. Because what happened next in 1783 was even more terrifying, and it's happening again. The Laki eruption didn't just affect Europe, it triggered a global climate catastrophe. Global temperatures dropped by 1.3 degrees Celsius, causing the coldest winter in centuries. Rivers that had never frozen solid became highways of ice. Crop failures led to famine across the northern hemisphere. Millions faced starvation. Entire populations were forced to migrate as their homelands became uninhabitable. Political systems began to collapse under the pressure of climate refugees and economic disaster. Some historians believe the Laki eruption was a contributing factor to the French Revolution. When people can't eat, governments fall. The red sky was a harbinger of political chaos. Conservative estimates put the death toll at over 6 million people worldwide, but most people died, never knowing what killed them. Today, we have the technology to predict such disasters. But do we have the will to act? The consequences of that single volcanic eruption lasted for decades. Tree ring analysis shows that plant growth was stunted for over a decade. The agricultural crisis forced innovations that would later fuel the Industrial Revolution. Benjamin Franklin was one of the first to connect the volcanic eruption to the climate changes. His observations laid the groundwork for modern climate science. But here's what's truly terrifying. It could happen again at any moment. The Yellowstone supervolcano has the potential to make Laki look like a firecracker. There are currently over 1,500 active volcanoes worldwide, and we're overdue for a major eruption. Modern governments have emergency plans, but are they enough for a Laki-scale disaster? Our interconnected world might be even more vulnerable than 18th century Europe. The lessons from 1783 are more relevant today than ever before. Imagine if the Laki eruption happened today in our world of 8 billion people. Global air travel would cease. Supply chains would collapse within days. Our just-in-time food delivery system couldn't handle even a week of disruption. Social media would spread panic faster than the volcanic ash itself. Mass evacuations would create chaos that 18th century Europe never experienced. The global economy would collapse within hours, not months. Climate refugees would number in the hundreds of millions, not thousands. The only advantage we have is advanced warning systems. But would international cooperation survive when every nation faces extinction-level threats? The question isn't if another Laki will happen, but when. The Sleepless Night of 1783 wasn't just a historical curiosity, it was a preview of humanity's most dangerous enemy, the planet itself. We live on a thin crust floating over molten rock, and that crust is cracking. In geological time, we're just a blink of an eye. But the volcanoes are eternal. The people of 1783 survived without knowing what hit them. We have knowledge they didn't have. Like and share if you love uncovering shocking facts that few people know, because the next sleepless night might be closer than you think. And this time the whole world will be watching. Sweet dreams.